Hello there, this is Tatu from Asian Agribees. My colleague Rajeswari Ramani interviewed Meyn food processing technology management team on the topic of transformation and trends in poultry primary processing and discovered how rapidly the landscape has changed in the last year. Let's have a listen.
The way poultry meat is purchased and consumed in Asia is changing. Prompted by the pandemic, the shift away from traditional live bird markets has been swift. Consumers are leaning towards convenience, food safety, and health. This has led to greater technology adoption in primary processing. We speak to Meyn Food Processing Technologies Global Product Manager, Pete Van Poorten, and Meyn India's Director, Mukanjay Singh. Welcome both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This question is for Mr. Mukanjay. What is your understanding of this market shift, and which direction do you think processors should move towards to?
Well, thank you first of all for having me here. So to answer your question, the consumer behavior is more or less common in across Asian countries as we understand. So where consumer prefers to buy freshly butchered chicken meat from wet markets. So talking about the current wet market share, it may still constitute around 80 to 90% of the total poultry sales volume. However, in recent times, the paradigm shift is quite visible. If I look the whole scenario, it is been changing very fast from a wet market to organized processing. And I see the two major driving forces behind this. So first would be the environmental and food safety legislations are becoming stricter day by day. If I talk about India, we are seeing frequent crackdowns on those slaughterhouses who are not abiding with pollution control rules, which was not very common 10 years back, let me tell you. Then second, when COVID-19 pandemic struck the world, it made the farmers or processors realize that live bird selling is not a feasible business proposition anymore, simply because of the associated disease with the live birds, such as outbreak of bird flu, which keeps the poultry prices volatile throughout the year. So having a proper poultry processing facility is must for the processors to be relevant in growing food safety environment. Going further, in this ongoing pandemic, it is quite visible that those integrators are able to survive who have had enough slaughtering capacity to hold the produced chicken meat for longer period of time. So not only that, the need for high degree of automation somehow was also felt, because when sudden nationwide lockdown imposed, especially in India, it caused acute shortage in labor supply because all the laborers were migrating to their native land in the fear.
Pete, can you tell us how could automation help reduce wastage, contribute to environmental sustainability, and a healthier bottom line in the industry?
Yes, of course, the automation contributes to a healthier bottom line in the industry in many ways. We know that the population will grow in a few years up to 10 billion in 2050. Yeah, and this shows that it will be inevitable for processors that are starting investing in automation, and they will have to start generating data out of the processes. Data analytics that help processors to drive up the margins for markets, segments like whole birds. And of course, it strengthens the operations and profits and make them more competitive within the industry as a whole company. Automation also makes workforces more efficient. So people working in the poultry plant, they're doing a lot of repetitive work. And this gives a tendency for people to get more exhausted and become less efficient and consistent during the day. And an automated process is of course more consistent in its performance, and every single movement during the day is exactly the same thing. So making this process more efficient and reducing the potential amount of damaged or badly harvested products that are going to waste. So additionally to that, automation also reduces cross-contamination, because when you have several people handling a contaminated chicken, the rest of the birds will be more susceptible to disease and eventually turn into waste. When you combine those two, the fact that innovation within poultry industry has made huge steps through the years when it comes to reduction of water usage, for instance. Mm-hmm. So with great techniques of Untitled technique, where we work with, is allowing the poultry processor to achieve a more hygienic result of their end product, and also simultaneously realize up to 70% of water savings. Secondly, the reduce of utility usage within the solutions, like automatically switching off water or electricity when there is no product. So both high yield solutions like inline giblet harvesters or adding value to offcuts is like giblets. And overall, automation and analytics will be without a doubt ultimately increasing the sustainability and a healthier bottom line of poultry industry.
This question is both for Pete and Mukanjay. How will consumers be impacted by the price differential as a result of automation adaptation?
So I will start. Well, in Asian context, as long as processors invest in automation in a phase-wise manner, according to line speed and its expansion plan, the price differential should remain checked. And the return on investment will also be healthy, I reckon. I believe this approach will create a win-win situation for both producer and consumer. But question is how? Because if the production cost will remain under control, then ultimately the producer will be able to offer the chicken meat at the competitive price to the consumers. Simultaneously, the processors can remain relevant in the market competition. Over to you, Pete.
Yes, so if you have more competitive processes, in the end they will become more profitable firms. So in theory, it should enable also for governments to receive more tax revenue, and that it could ultimately spend on public goods. So automation is essential to remain an international competitive stage. So if one country is not automating, production will shift to other countries. So they will have to do it to gain a comparative advantage.
Can you both also tell us, since the investment in automation can be quite significant, how could processors step up without feeling a financial pinch?
See, like in any other industry, the attractive ROI is very important for any investor. And poultry industry is no different. And more importantly, as the processing business strictly follows the principle of economies of scale, so scaling of production to reduce the production cost is desirable to sustain the profitability for a longer period of time. Now the question is what a processor should do to keep the healthy balance between investment and capacity expansion. So Meyn gave a long thought about this problem, and we came up with the solution called LEAP. So what is that? What is LEAP? LEAP is an abbreviation of low investment, expandable, automatic, semi-automatic processing plant. So it's a concept. It's a concept of educating an investor to do investment in a sensible and smart way. It says that full automation is ideally not required at low capacity. So a sensible approach is to increase the automation gradually along with capacity expansion in different phases. So to give you a perspective, in a semi-automatic plant, we usually advise to invest only in limited automatic components, which are critical from a hygiene and shelf-life point of view. This is with the sheer intention to keep the investment minimum at the inception. However, where the same line goes for high speed, where manual operation becomes unviable, then only we advise to upgrade into a completely automatic administration line, not before that. So with this approach, since the investment is made in different cycles, it does not create extra financial burden to the processors at any stage, and simultaneously the processor flourishes along with market growth.
So that means you are saying that the investment can be adapted gradually as they go along.
Absolutely. It always goes with the expansion, so by doing so, you don't have to invest in a one go. You have to do the investment at different cycles along with the expansion, capacity expansion.
So does the producer set his business goals first or follow his capacity increase?
Yeah. So it always goes with, it always goes with how customer sees the market trend in the future. That is one. And second thing, the driving force is also something related to the initial investment. So it always go with either with the budget or with the market trend. So in Asia, there's a general trend with the processors. They always start with some semi-automatic plant, and gradually they do expand the same semi-automatic plant to the higher end, like 6,000 and beyond.
How can processors benefit from offcuts resulting by transitioning into automation?
in India, there are different uses of off cuts according to
Yeah.
the market trend. In general, the processors, what they do export hog or feet mainly to Southeast Asia and China. As far as giblets are concerned, parts of giblets are concerned, like liver, heart, gizzard, and wingtip, they are considered as an edible product in India. So, which basically processors sold to roadside restaurant owners at a good price. So at the end, only lungs, blood, offal, and feathers remains as less valuable items, which goes for the rendering. Nothing goes. All in all, nothing goes to waste out of a processing plant. All are used.
So in addition to the answer of Mukanjay, is that of course modern automated equipment can process very accurately. So byproducts which are considered as low value products in some cases or in some countries, we see that the damages that occur during manual handlings can be turned into high value products if you going to automate. So for instance, livers, hearts, gizzards that can be processed automatically with a much higher precision, resulting in the end in a top quality product. And especially in the Asian region, those products are widely consumed. So where the high quality is also demanded by the consumer. So the same goes for the necks and the wingtips. If you can leave a little bit more of the neck attached to a whole bird, it will result in a certain amount of grams, which is resulting in a mass production, of course, in a much higher value for the customer. So semi-automatic and automatic processing is designed to maximize the value of the products and minimize the loss of value of the offcuts.
Some offcuts, such as chicken feet, are popular. How does automation add value to this in processing?
Yeah. So if I talk about chicken feet, we have I'm talking about particularly about India market. So we see as a high value product, not as a low value product, because we are exporting to China, and in China there's a good demand of chicken feet. So we export it, and we consider it as a high value product for us, for Indian market.
Yeah.
In relation to that, feed processing, especially in the Asian region or maybe in India too, is that you see a lot of manual work with that.
Yes.
And there are now products that can automate that process. So we also have a feed inspection camera system that can, based on a recipe, can designate a certain feed within the shackle already, designated logistic area. So if a feed may contain a small burn of the feed itself, based on the output quality, what is required by the end consumer, you can make a recipe that is shifting out A or B quality. So from that perspective, especially for that region, it's very interesting to go and see if that automation is contributing in a much less labor-intensive handling.
How fast and how prevalent will the automation transition happen in Asia?
So if you look at South Indian perspective, what is the problem with processors? They are not very consistent about selling the chicken products. I mean, in terms of, they always want to strike some balance between live bird sale and also processed product. And the reason being is because in India, especially if I talk about India market, the demand is very specific, seasonal specific. Like now we are heading towards September or August, I would say. So this is a kind of a religious period in India. So all of a sudden demand goes down drastically. For a couple of months it will remain like that. So now what processors do? They do over processing, and with the help of their slaughterhouses, they are doing over processing. So again, when the winter comes, the live bird the prices goes, again they shoot off. So again, they have to strike some balance between, again, as I said, they have to strike some balance between live bird sale and processed chicken. So they're always juggling between live bird sale and processed chicken. So that's how the market goes in India and South Asia, to be specific.
Yeah, I agree with that. You see a global trend in, there are a lot of market studies done, what the market will shift to. And you will see that a lot of Asian region countries are following the Western world. So the Western world is a lot of processed products already. and where mainly in Asia for a time it was a whole bird processing. So you will now see a lot more developing countries coming into automation because of the different product mix is required for the end consumer. Also driven by the more data-driven world we have now. We see in the Western world already that a lot of products can be bought online, which is required for the customer that they have a really inline, or let's say online, coming in data stream of logistics. So they have to quick act on the demand what is coming. So the same will come in the next few years. I think in the next 5 to 7 years there will be an increase in demand for the Asian region.
Can you tell us how does the new consumer look like?
Yeah, you will see that there is a natural evolve of buying, let's say, in general, and we see that is followed by normal steps. But I think how the world is shifting now with all the technology in the data-driven world is that some steps are not taken, and already 2 steps ahead is going to be implemented in let's say the developing countries. So that's why especially the Asian region is that the step to automation will be much quicker than in the past.
Thank you both for coming on board today to explain how primary poultry processing is changing with more adaptation in automation.
Yeah, thank you for having us. It was a pleasure.
Indeed, it was a pleasure. Thank you.
We hope the trends and processing information presented in this podcast today has enlightened stakeholders in the poultry industry to better harness the power of automation. Do share the podcast with your colleagues and friends, and check out our website at www.asian-agribees.com for the latest and exclusives in the livestock arena. This is Tatu, signing off for Asian Agribees.